Welcome.
We ain't afraid of no ghosts.
This is your number one podcast for ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties. Bringing you everything you need to know about things that go bump in the night and interviewing the personalities behind them. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Now, here are your hosts, your ghost hosts, Scott and Julie.
Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Project. Hi, Julie. How are you?
Boo, Scott. My favorite topic, ghost hunting tonight.
Ghost hunting tonight. Yes, it is. And we do ghost hunting a lot of stuff.
Yes.
But our guest tonight has a lot going on. In fact, I was saying to him before the show, I wasn't sure how we were going to get it all in. So we're going to talk about ghosts. We're going to talk about naked people and ghosts. And if you've never had that conversation before, tonight's the night.
Let's remember,
clearly
keep this PG. We can hit R, but that's about it for me.
that's as far as we're. Clearly, he's never investigated with our group, because I tell you, there are things more scary than apparitions. And I think,
let me tell you, bring the bleach for your eyes.
telling you. So I'd like to welcome Ross Allison to the show. Hi, Ross. How you doing? I don't want to wait any longer.
Good.
Hi, Ross.
How you been?
Hello.
You lecture on ghost hunting, right?
I do. I've been doing it for, going on 20 years now.
Now that's through the university or college?
Yep. University, colleges. I've done for a lot of events overseas as well, from Scotland to Canada. So yeah, I've been all over the place.
Wow, that's a good gig to get, huh?
Yeah.
Especially, something you love. And do you get a lot of interest in that when you are there a lot of people that are fascinated in it enough to?
Oh yeah.
I would
It's funny because I've been, ghost hunting before it was popular, before the ghost hunting shows. And it's a thing where now you come out of the closet and everybody loves you for being a ghost hunter. But back then, oh gosh, you didn't tell people you were a ghost hunter. You're pretty much wackadoo,
You were the weirdo down the street.
You were.
Say a word.
I remember those days. So yeah, it was pretty funny
too. Absolutely. Yes.
And back then, if you were gonna,
lady,
if you were gonna ghost hunt, you were probably breaking into a building or something, because there was nothing available to, it wasn't like we have places you can go to. I mean,
I wasn't breaking into places. I'll be honest about that. I was lucky enough that, in the Northwest, there wasn't any ghost hunting groups when I started out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the first, and there was a need for it. No one had anybody to reach out to if they were experiencing any paranormal phenomena. So where I expected I'd be hitting all these, public places and, try to document what they claim to be haunted, I actually, as soon as I launched the Advanced Ghost Hunters of Seattle, Tacoma, we were flooded with, clients, private homes that wanted us to come out and investigate the phenomena that they were experiencing. So that pretty much kept me busy for the longest time.
That's great. Do you still get a lot of that where you are?
It's not as much as we used to get.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot other outlets. It's, as you guys probably experience, it's become very competitive now.
Extremely.
When I started a ghost, we were 1 out of 100 nationally. Now each state could easily have 100+ groups.
Easily.
That's
definitely.
how crazy it is out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But that's a whole other topic we can get into.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, honestly, home investigations are my favorite. Like you say, they've really dwindled now. But I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years. And tell you, I love digging my teeth into a really good home investigation. When you go to these places that you pay to go to investigate, you kind of have an idea of what's going on there. A home investigation, that's exactly what it is it is an investigation. Right. You're starting with
the bare bones.
Absolutely. And figuring it out.
There's a thing is you have more opportunities when it comes to investigating a private home rather than a business. You're pretty limited, and especially if it's a business you're pursuing and they're not pursuing you.
Right.
So sometimes you just have your one-shot deal to get in there and see what's happening. Compared to a client, hopefully you'll have multiple opportunities, because as we were talking about, it's all about being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
Just because I come in one night doesn't mean I'm going to get any evidence to support the fact that there could be something happening in their home. They're 24/7. We're just coming in, for, 6+ hours.
Right.
So
Right.
to have the opportunities to go back and hopefully collect more evidence helps us to determine what could be happening in these homes.
Right.
That's it. They don't perform on command,
No, they don't.
that's what it is. And also, I know, and I'm sure you've encountered this, is that once we do go in and start the initial investigation, a lot of times the activity will ramp up,
Mm-hmm.
and which is kind of what we want anyway. But,
Right. Right.
to the chagrin of the homeowner.
Exactly. No, it is a unique opportunity when you can actually get more involved with clients rather than just pursuing a place that's popular for being haunted.
Absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely. All right. Can we talk about naked people? Because I really want to know. I want to know.
He's charring at the bit. He really needs to understand this.
Well, I would love to talk about naked people.
I am
Definitely.
fascinated by what you've got going on. I really am. And I did get a chance to see your videos earlier, but share a little bit about what you're doing.
So Parasense is a documentary that just launched earlier this year. It was actually a big success for us. It just now was launched in the UK as well. It is known as Parasense: The Naked Experiments. To my surprise, I found that I'm the first in history to try and validate touch when it comes to a spirit trying to touch the physical body.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've all heard of very similar cases. You may have experienced it yourself, whether it's a tap on the shoulder. Some people said, a kiss on the cheek, or being embraced, or even the negative aspects of being scratched or pushed.
Right.
When people have those experiences, it's really just a personal experience for you that experienced it. And we just have to take people's word for it. When you say, I felt somebody tap me on the shoulder, how do you prove that? You really can't. And so what happened was, it was about going on 7 years ago now, a young man had reached out to me from Northport, Washington. He was doing some work, some construction work on an old brothel. And it was an abandoned space upstairs. He was there alone when he felt something grope him. And so this was nothing unusual. I've heard, similar stories, or, just like I said, just being touched. And it really got me thinking. It's just like, how would you validate such a personal encounter? How do we make these experiences that people have and bring some truth to them? Not saying that they're lying about their experience. They obviously felt something, but how do we make it more valid for the observer as well? And I just got to thinking, is there some experiments out there that have been done? And I researched for months and months trying to come up with ideas, and I couldn't find anything to at least start from. And that's when I realized no one's ever done this before, and I was surprised by that. With all these other outlets of people trying to research EVP and lights phenomena and all this other stuff, no one's ever tried to prove touch. So I took it on myself. I said, okay, let's see if we can try and validate what's happening when somebody's having these experiences. So people have always asked me, well, why nudity? And I really got to thinking, it's like, well, if you're trying to validate touch, you need to see what's happening to the physical body itself. What's happening to the skin? What's happening to the muscles? Is there a temperature difference? You need to see all that stuff. If somebody is wearing a shirt and they said, oh, I felt something tap me on my back, it becomes contaminated evidence. Because anybody who's a skeptic or in the scientific field is going to say, could have been their shirt. So you do have to eliminate those elements if you're really trying to validate the research. So nudity just made sense. And I was lucky enough to get a few young men that were willing to be alone in a haunted location and we'd set up equipment and experiments around them, and we would just document these experiences. And it was about 6 years we collected all this stuff. I was getting some really great evidence, but not enough that I felt like I could put it out to the public and say, here is proof. I needed something more. And so luckily I had been on a podcast, a community science podcast that was hosted by a gentleman known as Chad Goodwin. And so I knew he was in the science field, and I reached out to him. I said, here's what I'm doing. I'm doing these experiments. And I just asked him the simple question, how would you prove touch? And he was just like, wow, there's all these things we could do. And so I invited him out one weekend to observe what I was doing. And he was just very impressed with what we were doing. And he took some of my concepts and expanded on them. We created a sensor field that actually monitors 360 around a subject. So for the first time in history, we're now actually tracking phenomena. So we can actually see where it's coming from, where it's going, all that. And we had some amazing results just by doing this.
How can you prove that it touches, let's just say here as an example, how can you prove that with this device?
Well, we're monitoring the environment around a subject. So you can't physically prove right now. We're working on some other ideas that we have. But what we can see, and this is another big step in the scientific field, by tracking the phenomena around a subject, we were able to track something coming towards the subject and then leaving the subject at the exact same moment that they were touched.
Okay.
So right there, we are able to prove pattern. And that is one of the first big steps that you need when you're trying to validate these experiences. Is there a pattern to it? Yes, there is. 2 times when subjects got touched, something came out of nowhere, hit the subject, and then immediately left. And so that shows us that there's something happening. So when you're trying to prove things, and this is one of the biggest problems that we have in the paranormal field when it comes, especially when it comes to a lot of the television shows, is we need at least 3 points of data, all right, to support something happened. Most ghost hunters, they'll go in with an EMF detector and say, oh, the EMF detector's going off, it must be paranormal. That's not enough. That proves nothing. And so you need other elements to show that there's other things happening around that one point of experience. And so that's our main focus, is to show that we have these multiple points of data. We are saying the subject's claiming they felt something at that moment. The Spectre system's picking up something at that moment. We may have even gotten an EVP at that moment. So those are the points of data that we're trying to bring together to show that this is something beyond just that one experience.
Now, can you rule it out? So in other words, if someone feels that they were touched, but you don't see something enter the field, do you eliminate that? Or
well, you try to look for other elements that could be outside the physical environment. Because right now, the best we can do as ghost hunters is we can read the environment and see if there's changes to the environment that we can't explain. There's no device out there that tells you you have a ghost in your presence. Nothing. There's not a ghost meter that says there's a ghost standing right in front of you.
Right.
All we do is we read the environment and say, okay, here's something odd in the environment we can't explain. Why is it there? At the moment, Julie felt that there was something standing next to her. Okay, there's 2 points of data. That's great. Can we find something else to validate that experience for her? And that's what we try to do. And that's all we can do at this moment. We need more data.
Right.
We need to actually expand ourselves. And it's frustrating because here we are going into almost 20 years of paranormal television and millions of dollars going into these shows, but hardly nothing going into the research.
No, because I still think it's even there's certain extremes of the TV shows, but I still think it's not what people want. They want to get that gotcha moment on camera. That's what people are looking for when they watch these shows.
But wouldn't those gotcha moments be more important if you can actually have other points of data to validate that?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But I
You
think
know.
we're going to have to spend a lot more time in each location in order to get that too, which is part of,
And a lot of
you know.
television shows don't want to do it, and a lot of groups don't want to do it either.
No,
You
it's
know,
true.
I think we're getting to the point where it's a lot of lazy ghost hunting because people want instant gratification while they're investigating and not have to do the work of going back and watching 15 hours of video or 15 hours of audio. It's unfortunately, but that's what the television shows are teaching them as well.
Right. It's almost like you need a season on one location.
You do.
You know, where you-
Right.
I would think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, that's true. I was on a home investigation, and the homeowner's teenage daughter, she was 17, asked if she could sit with us. And basically, I said, as long as it's okay with your mom, it's fine with us. And so we were doing quiet time. And because I find that's just the best way to investigate a lot of times, using your senses, and then you can back it up with, some recordings or whatever. So, quiet time can last quite a long time. And about a half hour, 35 minutes into it, she was sitting on the floor and she just kind of went, oh. And I looked over at her and I said, it's not like the TV shows, is it, honey? And she went, no, this is kind of boring. How long are you going to do this? And I said, well, at least another hour, but you can leave if you want to. And that's what ghost hunting is.
Mhm. Exactly.
Ross, Antone is asking if you considered touch or pressure sensors by EMI Field Watch.
We do have a huge list of, yes, we're trying to expand, and I can't say too much because, again, we're trying to publish our research and do some stuff, but I always thank you. I love great ideas, and that's what we should be doing, is expressing these ideas. It's all trial and error. So yes, we are trying to expand different ways in sensors to the body itself, to see what the body is actually going through when those moments happen as well. So we are monitoring the body temperature, the heart rates. We're even brainwave activity, because one of the things that my good friend Lloyd Auerbach, he actually was involved in our project as well. And he is a parapsychologist. And he had told me, that a lot of times when people are feeling the physical phenomena upon themselves, that they believe that they project it onto themselves. So when it comes to psychic phenomena, is that possible? Could you be projecting the physical attack on yourself? And so, you have to, again, do what we're doing to try and validate that. But we were able to prove that that wasn't the case in those two situations where subjects got scratched, because something came out of nowhere, attacked them, and then left. If you're projecting it onto yourself, then obviously you're ejecting it off of yourself and then back onto yourself.
Right.
So it'd be coming from you and then back to you.
Right.
So that was not the case. So this energy is coming from nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that we learned through this research as well is a lot of the equipment that ghost hunters are dependent on is not fast enough or sensitive enough to pick up the phenomena that we're looking for. And so there's a lot of times we're pretty much missing out on experiences and data to validate these experiences.
That's really interesting. And the other thing is too, it's a really great thing that you have these other systems around it, because if you think about it, when I have felt that I got touched, it's never been anything, it's not been like that. It's like spider webby, kind of cobwebby light. I would think if you don't have any clothes on, you're going to feel that more. And it might not be paranormal at all. It might be a breeze in the building or something that makes you feel, or you're getting goosebumps because you got a little cold or whatever it might be. So you have these other systems to back it up.
And think about it too. You just brought up a very valid point, is we could be missing out on a lot of experiences because we are wearing clothes. Where you may feel that brush across your face, you could feel it in other places along your body. You know, the
Right.
the skin is the largest sensing organ. So there's a lot of opportunities if you're willing to expose yourself out there that you could
Literally
experience.
expose yourself.
Exactly.
No, but I totally agree with you. As far as, being touched and projecting that and it coming back on you. Honestly, I know so many people that are so shocked when they're touched.
Mhm.
So I don't see how that could be happening. I remember the very first time I was touched, I was on one of my first investigations, and I walked through what I thought was a cobweb. I had no idea what it was. I literally stopped and looked up, and there were no cobwebs. So I just kind of went, okay. Took 3 more steps, stopped, and another cobweb right on the top of my head. Now, this was at the S.K. Pierce Mansion in Gardner, which is known to be extremely haunted and extremely clean because they keep it super, super clean. And one of the investigators that I was training with stopped and said, "What happened?" And I told her, and she said, "You were touched, and you were touched twice." And I said, I had no idea. I was brand new to doing this and not ready for it. So it was most certainly nothing that I could have projected upon myself because I wasn't prepared for it, ready for it, or even knew when it was happening.
Right. I remember the first time I was touched. We were one of the first groups to investigate Alcatraz. So we got to spend the night on the island.
Oh, wow.
And this was many, many years ago. And there was a lot of spots that weren't open to the public that have now become open to the public. But I remember they took us into the morgue section. And this is a section that goes down into the underground of the island. And I was the first to venture down into this, little path and into this little room. And my members are, filtering in behind me. But I want to get the widest angle of the shot of the entrance. So I'm, this is, when we still had to look through the lens of the camera and take pictures when we had film. So, I'm looking through the lens, trying to back up, to take the widest angle. And as I'm backing up, someone put their hand on my shoulder and stopped me. And so I stopped and I apologized to the member that I had backed into the corner, and there was nobody there. Now, I physically felt the weight of a man's hand on my shoulder, the pressure of his fingers, and I was physically stopped as I was taking a step backwards. I was expecting to see a living person behind me.
Right.
Nobody there.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
these things do happen.
Yes.
And even after having that experience, I was second guessing myself. Was it my jacket? Could my jacket have done that? It was just all these things you just kept thinking over and over in your head, trying to not just say this was a paranormal experience.
Exactly. Wow. That's a cool experience, though. This is why I love sitting around talking, as I call them, war stories. Well, the first time I was touched.
Yeah, and I've never been touched like that, though. That's, to feel the fingers. It's always been that cobwebby thing.
No, your arm was grabbed when you were doing Estes method in Revere.
Oh, we were. That's correct. I forgot about that.
And you were so shocked you jumped.
I jumped. Yeah, you're right. I forgot.
It was a literal grab. I remember that.
And I was pushed down in Scotland. We were in the Airth Castle, and they were filming for. Do you know Jay Blumke? I don't know if you know Jay. He's with what's the name of that place? The
Skinwalker Ranch.
No. He's got the channel with all the
Dark
Zone TV. Dark Zone TV. Okay. Yeah. So they were filming, and I was standing in the doorway, and next thing you know, something came up behind me, and boom, and I went right in.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even remember. Wow. You weren't there, Juliet. I don't know.
No, I wasn't. I was back at the other hotel, but I remember you come. I remember afterwards.
And I don't even remember where I was pushed from. Whether it was, I just don't know. But I remember
in the hallway. You were leaving.
I went down. Yeah.
You were getting ready to leave. I remember you told me that. Yeah, and then when we were at Madison Seminary, Cindy was pushed on the stairs. On those metal and the cement stairs. And she had a premonition because all night she kept saying to us, "Guys, be careful of the stairs. Guys, be careful of the stairs." End of the night, boom, flat. She went down.
Wow.
And she was definitely pushed. I mean, I saw her. She didn't trip. She was 2 steps ahead of me. She did not trip. She didn't stumble. She didn't stub her toe. She just hit both feet on the landing, and then down she went.
This is kind of strange.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious because, and I don't want to go off topic too much, but I went to Alcatraz. It's been a while. It was probably 90 something, 97, 98. It was a long time ago. You can't investigate there now, though, can you? Will they let you investigate?
Not that I'm aware of.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
And at the time, this wasn't a thing. I wasn't doing this.
No.
I don't think anybody was doing anything back then. But it's a really cool place. I mean, had I known, I'd have at least walked around with a recorder just to see if I could do anything. But
The old recorder in the pocket,
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much the way it was for me too.
Yeah.
did you get anything there? Did you pick up anything interesting there? Because
In Alcatraz?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We got some great EVPs. We actually had some interesting photos of interesting light phenomena. Try to think what else did we get there, and then just a lot of personal experiences. Because again, this was back when we didn't have digital cameras. We were still doing film and everything, so our equipment was still pretty limited on what we could use to try and validate our experiences.
Somebody does have a train near them, right?
It is me. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry, but I want to make sure I'm not having hallucinations here.
What train? I don't hear a train.
The phantom engineer coming through.
Are you smelling toast? What's going on?
Lights flashing on the sides of your eyes, Scott.
There you go. No, it's me. I'm sorry. It's a really hot day here, so my window is open. I didn't want to be sweating on camera and stuff, but
nice.
yeah, I live by a train station, so you will hear a train every so often.
They're just easy. Is that a far and few? Those hot days, are they far and few between, or do you?
In Washington? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
It's we're pretty. It doesn't rain all the time like people tend to think, but we really don't get very hot days, anything beyond 90.
Yeah,
That's hard
But-
to me.
I do want to say one thing, since we had talked about parasense, and I know we've had a lot of people have issues with the nudity, and I just want people to give it a chance. It's nothing different than you would see on Naked and Afraid. We blur the naughty bits for modesty reasons.
naughty bit.
But I just want people to at least give it a chance and look at it for the research reasons of what we're doing. Because we've had a few people give it negative reviews because of the nudity.
Well, they shouldn't watch it then, because obviously they had something set in their mind anyway.
Yeah. Well, we had one guy give it a bad review because he didn't get to see people's naughty
just
bits.
gonna say that.
I know. It's like,
Say that. He was probably disappointed.
No dangly bits, darn
wow.
it.
I was just like, what? Obviously, we're watching it for the reasons it was filmed for. So
Right.
I just want to get it out there that, please give it a chance. If you have issues with nudity, it's like I said, it's nothing you're going to see if you'd watched an episode of Naked and Afraid. Really, we're really trying to do it the right way. And if I put the challenge out to either one of you and said prove touch to me, I would think that you both would all come back down to nudity, just to be able to see what's happening.
Yeah,
in the
just
physical
not
body.
mine. Just not mine.
Doesn't have to be yours.
Right? I don't need to have it proven that much, but yeah. No, but I do. I think it's interesting. Is there? I know that I saw something, but what can people watch? What can they see right now if they want?
Our first documentary is out. It is on Prime. It's on Apple TV. It's on Google TV.
Nice.
It's on YouTube. It's out there. In fact, as I said, it was just released in the UK as well. Basically, it is what we're considering our origin story. We tried to bring together, because I've been doing this for 6 years, had hundreds of experiments, and we tried to dwindle it down to an hour and a half of research and tell a story, because that was the biggest challenge that we had. Is we had all this research. I was filming the experiments. I wasn't trying to put together a documentary or try to tell a story. I just wanted to document the research and be able to publish the research. But I guess when you're trying to do that, you should have some sort of, story to tell behind it. And so that was something that we had a challenge of trying to bring together all this research and show people our history and where we came from point A to point B, and how it changed from me doing just the research to actually bringing on a scientist onto the project and his origin story in getting involved in this. So there's a lot of that being told as well. And we're also trying to take on the challenge of making science entertaining.
Yeah.
No one really wants to be confronted with the ones and zeros. They want to hear the ghost stories, they want to see the jump scares. It happens when you're in a lot of these creepy places. Strange things happen. Strange things will happen that'll make you jump. Right. But we want to definitely show that there are other elements that can also make this more entertaining, more scary, to be honest, when you realize that when people have these experiences, there is something to validate this experience.
What's the name of the documentary that Nancy was asking? Is it Parasense?
Parasense, The Naked Experiments.
And it's SENSE.
I think I saw it on Prime.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Not to be confused with All the Naked Parasense, SCENTS, because you might not want to pay attention to that. It's SENSE. I know, we're like 12 over here, Rob.
That's all right.
Like high school.
All right. I don't know.
Right over it.
That's right.
No, but I think it's really, it's really interesting. And so we'll check it out. Yeah, sense. That's right. SENSE, Nancy saying. Sense, SENSE.
And you can go to the website too, touchedbyaghost.com.
Touchedbyaghost.com. I'm going to put that on the bottom of the screen here so people can check it out. Touchedbyaghost.com. And where'd it go? There we go.
Oh, it looks like Nancy's having a good time there. Dangly bits and sense.
Yeah. I'm telling you, we're like,
We are amusing.
The average age is not, but mentally it's about 10.
10.
Maybe 12. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't
On a good night, 12. When we'll be very serious.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So Ross, I have a question for you. Are you still involved with the tour group? Is it Spooked in Seattle Ghost Tours?
Yes.
That's still happening?
Yes, that's one of the things. I am the only full-time ghost hunter in the Northwest. So, I make my career by lecturing, teaching classes, doing tours, and that's it. I do not make any money from ghost hunting. And I refuse to make any money from ghost hunting because I want to maintain my credibility. When people say, "Oh, you just do it for the money," yeah, really, what money? Come on,
right.
But really, I would never want to put myself in a position where somebody pays for your service, they expect something in return. You cannot guarantee that. Plus, I think it affects your credibility. And also, why would you ever want to put yourself in a position where somebody is experiencing true paranormal phenomena and they can't afford you?
Exactly. Right.
Then you're not in it for the reasons that you claim to be,
Yes. I've never charged, and any team that I've been on has never charged to go into a home to investigate, no matter how many times. And people will say, "What can we do for you?" This is what we want to do. This is our passion. This is what we love to do. However, if you'd like to put a pizza on the table, we'll be more than happy to take care of that.
That's fine if people want to donate and feed you.
It's just, this is just something that the people that I've worked with over the years, honestly, it's just our passion. It's a hobby. Right. It's our passion. It's just what we love to do.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So I'm going to be in Seattle, as a matter of fact. So that's why I'm interested in your ghost tour.
Oh yeah, definitely. When are you going to be out here?
We are flying in on June 25, Sunday, and we're in Seattle Sunday night and Monday night. And then that Tuesday, we get on the Alaska cruise.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely would love to meet with you. I can even try and set up, maybe I'll give you a tour of my death museum.
Ooh.
Yes, we have a collection of haunted objects. We also have vintage mourning dresses, jewelry, coffins, all kinds of fun stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Great. I'll get Scott. Do you have his email?
I don't think I actually have an email. We've connected through Facebook.
After the show, maybe we can exchange emails or something. So
yeah.
that'd be great.
Yeah,
so
just after the show and we'll chat.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I mean, I won't be there, but that sounds really nice.
Yeah, it's a girls' trip.
Yeah,
Scott.
Anybody ever in the Seattle area, definitely check us out. We are longest running ghost tour.
Yeah, I think that's great. I've always wanted to go to Seattle. I've heard it's really a great city. I don't know anything about it other than, coffee and rain. But I've heard it's a really nice
and
place.
Bigfoot. Come on, can't forget Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and one of these days I might get there because my son's sister lives in. Is there an? I'm trying to think of the name of the town now. Is there an Auburn, Oregon? Or am I thinking of Oregon? I'm thinking of Washington.
Well, there's Auburn's all over the place, but there is an Auburn, Washington.
It's Washington, not Oregon. I keep saying Oregon. It's Washington.
There may be an Auburn, Oregon as well.
Yeah, I think it's Washington. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're still working on that, and you've worked with some pretty amazing people too. You've done a lot with a lot of people who are kind of entrenched in this community.
Yeah, I've been on all the television shows. I've worked with a lot of the big names out there, even before there were even the television shows. So yeah, it's one of those things that I can definitely prove my history in this.
No, and I appreciate you hanging out with us little names because that's what we are. Little names.
We all start from somewhere.
And we're not trying to get anywhere. We just love talking about this stuff, and you come at it from a very interesting perspective. I think what you're talking about tonight is
that's the secret of my success, is because I'm very open and honest in my approach. I could tell you some pretty horrific ghost stories and say, "Oh yeah, I saw a floating head come across the room" and all that stuff, and no, I didn't. I'm sorry.
No.
I wish. But I think the secret to my success is people just love my honesty. I will tell you where the problems are in this field, and I will tell you some of the things that we can to fix this. Granted, I've been in this field for, a little over 30 years, but I don't claim to be an expert because really a lot of this comes from experience. Right. And you could say you've been doing this for 30 years and maybe you've only, probably put maybe 50 hours into it. That doesn't make you an expert, and it pretty limits your experience as well. I've been doing this for 30 years and I was out there going, investigating almost every weekend.
Wow.
So I put a lot of hours into this. So I'm more than happy to, give people the shortcuts, learn from my mistakes. But then I could also learn from you too, Scott, even though you haven't been in this for as long as I have, but you still could have some incredible ideas that we have to communicate and share. And that's the problem with the paranormal field, is it's becoming more territorial. And people don't want to share their ideas or share their evidence because they think they're holding on to something gold and it's going to make them famous. And it's just like, no, if you really truly are a paranormal investigator, you have to publish your research. And that's what I did with Parasense. I had to publish it. I was afraid to.
Yeah.
Because again, I was afraid somebody would steal my ideas. But you know what? This is all trial and error, and we all have to learn together and hopefully share these experiences and help advance each other.
What is your background? I mean, how did you, because it seems it's a very scientific way of thinking. Do you come from a scientific background, or?
I think it's just how I've always processed experiences. I've always tore everything apart to the simplest, experience and try to go from there. I've always told people, even in the paranormal field, you kind of have to do the same thing as well. Everybody wants to label everything and claim that they know exactly what it is that's haunting them and why they're haunting them. But in all honesty, we really don't. There's very limited information that we do have about the paranormal field. A lot of this comes from people's personal beliefs and theories and ideas. People have asked me, are you religious? And I said, well, I can be spiritual, but I'm not religious, because if you truly are trying to understand the paranormal field, you can't be led by religion. You can't be biased in your research. I've always said we have to go on what we know and not with what we think we know. And most of this is we think we know what's going on. And so I said, well, it's like, people want to, throw demons out there. Well, that's being led by religion, by a religious belief. I'm not saying that there's not negative experiences out there or negative entities.
Right.
Yeah, I've had negative experiences myself. Is it a demon? I can't label it a demon. I don't know enough information. But if we can bring more science into this field and be able to really identify these experiences and what causes these experiences, then if it's a demon, then it's a demon. Then we help support those beliefs. But otherwise, we can't do that right now. Yeah. We just have to go with the basics. And so, as I've said, we have to strip things down to the simplest phenomena. We can't, prejudge a location or, throw in our own personal experiences and ideas out there and say this is what it is, because we cause more damage to the field than we do in advancing the field. And I'll use this as an example. The biggest problem we have in the field today is most groups out there are getting their education from watching the television shows. They're saying, I've seen every episode of Ghost Adventures. I'm an expert in the paranormal field. All right.
Right.
So then they go and take what they've learned from these shows and apply it to their, investigations. And so when you have a group come into someone's home and they say, okay, well, we have determined that what's in this home is a demon. So we're going to go ahead and leave now. So you have a demon in your home.
Right.
Okay. So now this family is terrified because they believe, what this group has told them. And now, they're ready to sell their home and put themselves through financial despair, because they're so terrified of what's going on. And so there's a lot of situations where we're constantly called in to walk clients off the ledge,
right?
Because they've now been terrified by a prior other group that came in and told them all these horrible things that they now believe is happening in their home. And so that becomes the big cycle in the field. And the biggest problem in the field is because now, everybody thinks they have an idea of what's happening and they think they have all the answers to everything. And we really don't.
Right.
We're still learning.
And you reminded me of something when you were talking before about, not charging for investigations. And I've also thought of this as well. Even if we were able to go to a house and we can confirm for them, yes, there's something here, right? We didn't spend 9 months there doing investigations and experiments. But what are you going to do about it? Well,
that's the thing.
It's still a haunted house, right?
Right.
Am I going to charge you to tell you that you've got? I mean, first of all, I don't get that stuff. Like, there's something going on. How am I going to label it a demon or? And if I, and Julie always says this: if I had $1 for everyone that has a vortex or a portal in their house, you know what I mean?
Oh, Julie, I could just kiss you.
Yes.
I'll see you at the end of the month, Rob.
Oh, yeah, right. Save it. Yeah. No.
As I told him,
She's
I said,
remember that kiss? Come on, right here, boy.
Oh my God.
But it's oh my gosh.
True.
It is.
It's so true. And now all of you done, if you've given them they still have potentially a haunted house, but now they also have a fear of it. Right. I mean, a real fear of it.
And then I think the other problem is, and I'm not sure if you talked about this because I had to switch computers because my first laptop was doing something wonky for me on me. But we've got calls from people that clearly have emotional issues. And they're blaming it on, I have an attachment, I have a demon attached to me, or I have a negative spirit attached to me because I have all this bad luck. When I start talking to them, and Scott and I have talked about this with other team members, and we do an in-depth interview with them, we find out that basically it's their life has been one poor decision after another. And they're not taking responsibility for their own decisions.
Exactly. Yep.
And so it's just, it's just an opt-out for them.
And that's another big problem in this field is there's a lot of psychology involved in this field.
Yes.
People think that it's all ghosts when a lot of times it's us as human beings, our own flaws.
Right.
There's a lot of that at play too.
Exactly. And honestly, you really need to work on weeding that out, especially.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to do the interviews,
Yes.
to do the walkthroughs. And a lot of groups don't even do that. They just want to get in, do an investigation, and go from there. And then there's as I said, lazy ghosting or improper training,
I think it's improper training. I think people are not trained. Honestly, like I said, I've been doing it not as long as you. I've been doing it for 15 years. But the first team that I worked with, basically, they said, we will train you. And they did. My friend Barbara and I joined the team. And they actually, from point A to point B, we're going to do a walkthrough. We'll take you to the first walkthrough. This is what we're going to do. We're going to scan the residents. It was really, we were trained. It wasn't just jump in there and here's a recorder and grab an EVP. It was really good, substantial training in order to figure out what, if anything, is going on in the house.
Right. Well, that's great. That's great. I wish there was more of that. I wish there was more educational services available on the television shows. But they're all too afraid to do it.
Well, I think that's what it is, because people are not going to tune into that stuff. They're honestly going to tune into the jumps and the bumps and the bangs. That's what they want to see. They're not going to tune into anything like that. Like I said earlier, bring them along on a home investigation and let them see how boring it really is.
Right. Well, that's why we had to do Parasense on our own. We had networks offer us shows. I won't say which networks, but there was a situation where, when we were developing it and trying to get it out there, they wanted to expand it. And it's like, well, can you do aliens? Can you do Bigfoot? And I was just like, I really don't want to go down that road. My passion is ghosts and dabbling a little bit in psychic phenomena as well. But I don't need to, get involved in going out and taking this technology out into the woods and see if Bigfoot will come out. And then there was a situation where, they said touch, well, the sexual aspect, women or men claiming to have sex with ghosts, can we take that and apply it there? And I said, well, if you're dealing with a situation where somebody is being physically attacked, being raped by a ghost, in a word there, now you're putting me in a situation where I'm going to need whoever's having those experiences be willing to be the subject, because obviously they're the target. Right. And now they're dealing with this traumatic experience, and you want me to ask them, hey, are you willing to be naked as well? And let us observe this? Right. To me, I did not want to go down that road.
Right.
I did not want to use these individuals to, I guess, exploit them for the show.
And that happens a lot with reality TV. I have a friend whose roommate, she was one of the psychologists on Hoarders, and she finally had to stop because she said she felt that it was an exploitation of these people. Yeah. She says, I just can't do this anymore. And I could totally see it going down that path.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
We were talking about, house investigations, and honestly, since I've known you, Julie, we've not had one. We've had some that have come up, and there's, for one reason or another, there's things that
Right. I'd say the first 10 years of doing this, I've done a lot of house investigations, but the last 5, definitely not. No, not a lot at all. I don't even remember. We had a couple in the works, but then the homeowners decided that they didn't want to go down that road. So yeah, we haven't done any. I haven't done one in the past, I think 4 years. I think the last one I did was at the Bridgewater Triangle.
Well, I think now because of the television shows that it's more accepted that it doesn't, just because you experience something paranormal in your home doesn't trigger fear for a lot of people anymore. It triggers excitement.
Right.
So they're not out there looking for somebody to help them with their ghost, because now television shows have proved you don't need any education to be a ghost hunter. You don't need a degree in this.
Right.
Anybody could just pick up a camera and EMF detector and call themselves a ghost hunter, and that means the homeowners can now do it themselves. So it has, in a way, taken those opportunities away from us for those who are truly trying to document the phenomena. So, there is a downfall to that as well, because as I said too, I haven't had as many opportunities either. Because I think a lot of these people have access to watching these ghost hunting shows, and now, they can do their own little investigation.
Right.
Exactly.
So,
Or they think they can.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. They think they can.
Right.
And so when we go and investigate, Julie, when you and I go, it's a night, it's several hours. We're not setting up experiments. We're just going and, kind of getting an overall picture of what's there. But it's not these homes where or places where you could set up these long-term investigations.
Well, that's it. And when we go into these into these haunted locations, we go in there with preconceived notions of what is there, as opposed to attempting to find what is there. Which that's what I miss. I love doing the investigation, trying to figure out what's there, what's going on.
And it's great. It's our own little mysteries as well.
That's it. And we have to be honest. Honestly, maybe 15% we find activity when we do go into a home investigation. Maybe there's 15, maybe 20 at the most. You're going to find activity, true activity. Usually 80%, there's not a whole lot going on.
No, I've always taught.
I was just going to say, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, when I teach my classes at the universities, I've always said that, it's usually 1 out of 10 that'll provide some sort of evidence that there could be something paranormal going on. And so that is a lot of work. And we even find it when we're doing, parasense. It's collecting a lot of, data, and a lot of times things don't happen. So you don't always get that data to validate. And I think, too, a lot of groups or individuals in this field get bored, not just with the fact that they're not always experiencing things like they see on TV, but they also get bored with the experiments. They'll try an experiment once, and if it doesn't pan out anything, they give up on it and don't ever try it again.
Right.
And if you're dealing with that, being in the right place at the right time, that means you have to run those experiments over and over and over and over again.
Right. That's right. Yes.
Ross, we have about a minute left of the show, believe it or not.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
that was quick.
They're just fun people to talk to, Ross.
Honestly, if we had a 2-hour show, we would have never found you. It would have been the guy that gives us one word.
That's exactly.
Someone to talk to. It's 54 minutes. Just real quick, we only have half a minute left. Touchedbyaghost.com, and they could find out about Parasense. And also, do you have a website? That is the website.
That's the website for the documentary. I always encourage people to look me up on Facebook, Ross Allison Ghost Hunter. I do a lot of live investigations and stuff like that, so you can check me out there. And then a ghost for ghost.org for the ghost hunting group. And then, of course, spookedinseattle.com for the tours and the Death Museum.
Thank you, Ross. It's been a real pleasure. We appreciate
thank you
enjoying us tonight. Have a good weekend, everyone. We will see you next week. And until next time, good night.
Thank you, Ross. See you in Seattle.
Good night, guys. Awesome.
You have been listening to The Paranormal Project with Scott Allen and Julie Finn. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. While you're there, leave us a rating and review so others can find out about the show. Stay haunted and go out there and explore the paranormal.